I'm Jeff Biggs, and just like Punch, we are your support for Cowboys fans during this wild off season.
I'm Landon McCool, and I think I just pulled my hamstring watching Sonny Styles do his vertical.
Glenn Stretch Smith, I'm dizzy from watching it over and over.
And look who's joining us, wrapping it up.
Yeah, y'all. I had a puppy problem.
Oh, it's okay. We're
And
here
not
for you.
not the literal puppy, the 11-year-old adult dog in the room.
Oh,
Here's
goodness.
the puppy. So yes, I have a senior citizen in the house now. So it's a different lifestyle I've never had a senior dog. Have any of you? So that's different.
No.
So that's different. So hi guys, what are we talking about? What are we doing?
How about them Cowboys? It's the Cowboys Squad. Everything Dallas Cowboys every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from America's team, the way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Get ready and squad up. It's the Cowboys Squad Show, starting now.
All right, what a way to start things off. February is almost over, but we already have some March Madness underway at the NFL Combine in Indy. Welcome back to another edition of the Cowboys Squad Show. That is Landon McCool, co-host of the Daily Locked On Cowboys podcast with Marcus Mosher. That's Iisha Morrison, multiple Morrison with all the multiple shows. And don't forget the two I's and former Cowboys coach, the one and only Glenn Stretch Smith. A lot to get to today. One of those days where just as the day has gone on, more and more news has been coming in. We've got breaking news that was announced for the Cowboys defense, another tag, not for George Pickens. And will the Cowboys tell Brandon Aubrey or his agent to kick rocks? Get into that as well. But let's start with the breaking news. I'll start with all of you. Don't know how much validity there is to it, but it was from the Sporting News that apparently underway today at Indy, day one, although they've been there since Tuesday. According to multiple reports, Cowboys brass was overheard in shouting matches with agents, not only agents for their own players, but also agents for potential free agent signings. That included Brandon Aubrey, who we'll get to in a moment. But I don't know, do you guys buy any of that? Does that sound legit to you? Like I said, normally if it's just somebody that I've never heard of or just a blog, but considering the Sporting News was going with it, I'm going to say that they did their homework. But anyway, their whole take was this is not a good sign or a good start to free agency.
I'm still confused on what we're even talking. So they gathered a bunch of agents in a room and yelled at them? Is that what's happening?
Apparently, they overheard different conversations about, I'm assuming, maybe contract restructures, maybe negotiations, maybe re-signing players.
Maybe it was the one where the guy told the Joneses that they wanted to pay their kicker $10 million.
Yeah, that's a no.
$10 million.
That's a no.
For a kicker.
Yeah, that's a no right there. Yeah, according to reports, the Cowboys offered to make Brandon Aubrey the highest paid kicker in the NFL, somewhere in the 7 range. And according to reports, his agent or his group countered with closer to 10. And that's where we are as of this morning.
Yeah.
Are those the real reports? Because we're also seeing Aubrey and his wife do their thug thizzle on social media too.
You say that,
so
but
what
also,
is happening?
What actually got corrected is that, and this is what's making me crazy, is that Calvin Watkins is the person who reported all this, right? And then he comes back out later to correct himself. And the thing he corrected was not the $10 million a year asked by the kicker, was that the Cowboys didn't offer him 7.5. They offered him $7 million, which seems like, again, we're burying the lead here. That a kicker asked for $10 million a year to be a kicker. Like, I love Brandon Aubrey, but man, what are we doing here?
He's a former soccer player.
That's wild.
That's the big dollars. I'm never gonna forgive y'all for having me open in that way without me knowing.
Listen,
never
you showed up in the middle. You showed up in the middle.
Coach was down here cackling with that pick in his mouth. I'm never gonna forgive y'all. But the Brandon Aubrey thing is kind of getting wild.
We're here to support you, though, just like Punch.
No, y'all. I know the fans are like, "What in the blue stars is this lady talking about?"
We got props.
But no, seriously, no. This Brandon Aubrey thing, to me, is going off the rails, and it just got on the tracks. Like, I don't even know what's going on. How did we get here? I mean, this is a great kicker, but I didn't know that he was asking for that much. That really changes the conversation to me. What do you feel like, Coach? I know you. When did you?
I don't know. I don't really know what to make of all that. I mean, I think that. I mean, obviously, I knew this young man because I was actually coaching in the USFL when Dallas signed him from the Birmingham Stallions, and I was around him some. He's a really polite guy. I mean, I think the agent steps in and asks for all kinds of things, but also the agent didn't know the difference between Clarence Hill and Calvin Watkins. That bothers me. I mean, your agent doesn't know who the two guys are, the difference in the two guys are that cover the team for the morning news and used to cover the team for the Star Telegram, and you don't know the difference in those guys like that. That kind of bothers me. So I'm not real sure what to buy into with all that.
Well,
can you give us the source, Jeff, on the shout and match thing situation? Because
it was from Sporting News. It was on the Sporting News Cowboys site.
Because it sounds like some late night activities, if you know what I'm saying. If you've been to the combine, it sounds like some late night activities.
Somebody stayed at Nick's too long.
I was about to say, because for that to be happening, if that did happen, like around other people, I feel like it would be a bigger. It would be everywhere.
Well, we'll see soon enough. I just thought that was interesting, but it does lead into what you were just discussing with Brandon Aubrey. We talked about it a little bit on Monday, and it's like, okay, you're thinking, okay, what's he worth? How much do you want to pay? How much we love him and think, I think he's a great weapon. I didn't like the idea of trading him for a pick, but now, as you said, Iisha, now this is a whole, if that's indeed true, that's where they're thinking. And I don't know, don't you think that to ask for that kind of a number, like close to 10 million, that they believe that somebody out there is willing to pay it? I mean,
well, they're not. I mean, that's the problem, is that, I mean, the Cowboys can easily just put and they will. It sounds like they are going to put the second round tag on him. So it's like, no, you're not getting that. You're not getting that either way. Like, so I don't know, man. I feel like
it's very weird.
Yeah. Like if this was a wide receiver, like if this was Pickens, right? The conversation should be starting kind of at and around the franchise tag number, right? Which is whatever it is. I think it's 28 million for wide receiver, right? And then the agent could go with the higher number, and then you kind of negotiate back and forth. But like this is a situation where he's a kicker, like and it's like the highest paid kicker in the NFL is making less than the second round tender. So it's like, they could pay you the second round tender. No one's going to trade a second round pick for Aubrey. And so you simply just slap a tag on him. The conversation's over. And now Aubrey's got to go through another year of not falling off, which is ultimately what happens to all these kickers. And so the pressure is kind of back on him at this point. So I don't know. If I was him, I probably would have gone with a multi-year deal. I would have maybe countered at 8 and see if you could get 7.5. I mean, that's still $1 million more than the highest paid kicker in the NFL right now. He may have he may have overplayed his hand here a little bit if things do eventually kind of go south next year.
Let me ask you something. Do you think it's him, or do you think this is coming from Todd France?
Whatever. Like, it doesn't really matter to me. Todd France probably, but I mean, I imagine he's certainly not, against getting paid $10 million a year.
Yeah, coach don't trust agents.
Well, I mean,
my whole thing is that the agent works for you. You don't work for the agent, and I think there's times when it feels like, was it the tail wagging the dog here? I mean, hey, you want somebody looking out after your best interest, and certainly you want somebody looking out at your contract. And I mean, you want all that. And I wouldn't say I'm anti, but I do know this, that when you're letting someone else speak for you, I think that becomes it becomes a little bit of a slippery slope.
Yeah, for sure. Can I real quick just speak to Troy's comment in the comments? Is you're right. We don't know who to believe at this point, but what we do know is that the agent reached out to what he thought was someone else, but then eventually figured out it was Calvin Watkins. And the number that he corrected in the report was only the Cowboys side of the number. He didn't correct the $10 million offer, the part of the rumor. So I mean, I think that's pretty much confirmation that is what he asked for. So yeah, I mean, it's whether it's Todd France
he's trying
or
to
if
reset
it's
the market.
Aubrey. Oh,
so he thinks he's good enough
to reinvent the market. Like, yeah, for sure.
Wow.
I mean, listen, here's the other thing too, is I think we love Aubrey here, and we think he's, certainly in the conversation for being the best kicker in the league. But I mean, he isn't like far and away the best kicker in the league. There are other people in his stratosphere, I think. So I don't know, to ask, like, what is it, like 50% almost of the highest paid kicker rate? I think it's pretty wild, to be honest.
And again, coming off a 7-9 season, it's like you can only it's just only so much money to go around with the way this system is set up. The other thing, though, that was in this article, and I apologize, I should have left it up to go back and reference, but they said that according to their numbers at the moment, right now, the Cowboys are $55 million over the cap. Does that sound right?
Man, yes, but we've done this before. Like, you literally, it's two trigger pulls and you're
right
15 million over the cap.
Yeah, it's like credit. It's like a credit score. It's very fluid.
The number to remember is 133 million. 133 million is the amount of money that the Cowboys can create with trigger pulls, with simple restructures. So
I did not know that number.
What is the actual salary cap? What is that number? Has it come out this year, or do you have to wait for the new league?
No. I think it's released. I don't remember it off the top of my head. Is it like 260? I could be totally wrong off on that. Let's see.
Okay. Well, anyway, that's one part of it, and then the other news:
301 to 305 million.
Okay. So it's gone up significantly.
Yes.
From the last year was 265.
I think it was $22 million increase for the third consecutive year is what I'm seeing here.
We saw a big jump because of all the TV deals.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the streaming deals as well.
Yeah, and that's what else is going to go up? The prices to watch all those. Not to sound like grumpy old man, but that's going to go up too. The cost for Sunday ticket and Red Zone, all of that.
Yeah, it's hard on fans. It's hard on fans to keep up with football these days.
Yeah, you got to have all this, like you said. You got to have all the services. You got to be connected. So sticking with the money, ESPN's Jeremy Fowler reported this afternoon that the Cowboys are planning to use a second-round tender on TJ Bass, which would pay him $5.8 million this upcoming season.
No, shout out to TJ Bass, man. He's a guy that he went undrafted. Dallas jumped on him. A lot of people, and myself included, were surprised that he went undrafted the year that he did. And he's just been reliable. He's consistently got better. He's not if you watch him in practice, he's not the best practicer all the time. But when he gets out there and plays, he does have his limitations, but I think he's been a really good backup for Dallas. I feel like them putting this tender on him shows that they value him and that they know they need to have that depth there. I saw somebody talk about trading him, and I was like, dog, I don't know if I think he can start somewhere, but I don't know if anybody's going to trade him for a second round pick.
Oh, I wouldn't be shocked. I don't know about a second round pick, and I don't think it needs to be a second round pick. But if somebody came and offered me a third round pick, he's a starting guard.
Yeah, I agree. But are we going to forfeit the reality of maybe, guys get dinged up through the season? They just do.
100%. Sure. I think if you have, you have to keep one of Hoffman or Bass, right? So you don't want to give away both of them. So I think if you have a plan to bring back Hoffman as well, and then maybe see if Robert Jones is interested in coming back for another year. I think you've got a lot of needs on the defensive side of the ball.
That's the whole thing. You can't keep stacking all this stuff on offense. I mean, at some point, you got to address the elephant in the room.
That's
and
right.
They couldn't stop Bemidji State. I mean, I get it. You want some depth on offense? Yeah, I got you. Yeah, please. Yeah, and I get it. I get all that. We want to do something, but at some point, they got to start spending some assets on the other side of the football. And I mean, I was the one that brought up. I mean, at some point, you're going to have to take where you've got a lot of depth, and you're going to have to turn that into a starter on the other side of the football, or it doesn't. It doesn't matter how many points you score on offense. I mean, I'm still looking at this, and let's just say in the best case scenario, this team got 2 starters this year out of the draft and maybe 1 free agent. Okay, so that gets you, I don't know, maybe 2 more critical stops in the football game, maybe 3. I mean, still puts your offense having to score 30 a game to win a game. And this is a 7-9, and it's a below 500 football team. And I think we talk about it like, oh, we got to pay that guy. Oh, hell, we got to pay that guy. We got to pay that guy. I mean, at some point, you better get some guys on the other side of the ball. I'm kind of to the point now where it's like, let's get some of these assets and let's turn them into some guys that can stop somebody.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked at all if they traded one of these guys. Like, I mean, again, like I said, they had. I wouldn't have been shocked last year if Robert Jones doesn't get hurt. I wouldn't have been shocked last year that they had traded one of these guys for a player at the time. But now, I mean, look, if you can get a day 2 pick for TJ Bass of any kind,
it's very 100%. Possible.
I love the guy. If you're think about it, like teams that are looking for a starting guard.
There was conversation about it last year, to your point, Landon. There's from my knowledge, there was conversation about it last year. So I get what you're saying, Coach, about trying to build the defense. I do making sure that you're continuing to build the defense. I think that's why Landon was saying that they're going to have to choose between a Hoffman or a Bass. And it looks like they're kind of showing who they're choosing with this tender right now from right now. So we'll see. Brock Hoffman posted something kind of cryptic the other day too. So.
I mean, I don't know how much you put into what Florio says, but I mean, if someone picked up the phone and called and offered you a first-round pick for Pickens, I mean, at this point, do you take it? I'm just throwing it out there.
I wouldn't. I mean, I think, I think it would be tough, but I just think that the one thing that you have that is an extreme positive on this team is a vertical passing attack that is one of the best in the league. And if you can, this is my issue with that too, is that like, and I've heard this chatter before, like, why don't we trade Pickens for a defensive player? And to me, it just doesn't make sense. Like, you're not going to get the same bang for your buck for whatever you trade Pickens for, and the return won't be good enough. Like, you'll weaken yourself on offense. Like, I just think you have a very tight window with Dak Prescott right now. You should be optimizing that. And I think it's easier to build a defense and turn a defense around than to retool an offense. And frankly, think about where we were without Pickens last year. We were desperate for a wide receiver too. And I think we didn't get a wide receiver 2. We got a wide receiver 1A. We got a guy who outperformed our wide receiver last year.
I'm not advocating that you do. I'm saying from a personnel standpoint, you got to go through the exercise of how are we going to get this football team better. And again, minus a second or a third round pick. So where do the numbers where do the numbers come from? And when we start talking about how much we're going to pay, you're putting a lot of pressure on one side of the football now. And I just think it's an exercise that you have to do and you have to go through in order to really feel good and solid about what your 53 looks like.
Well, yeah, that's why you got to do things like trade a TJ Bass if you've got him, right? Like there's just times when you're going to get a situation where you've got to find a way to turn your valuable assets into, other valuable assets to be used. And I think you're lucky in the sense that you have depth at the interior offensive line. You've been pretty good at developing those players. And there's value in that position now. And not every team has good interior offensive linemen. So, yeah, I 100% agree. We should leverage that and turn it into talent on the defensive side of the ball, because that's the area that certainly needs the most work.
And I think that's the point. What you do have, what this football team does have and is rich at, interior defensive linemen and interior offensive linemen. That's the hardest thing. Two of the hardest, arguably, 4 positions to find. You're rich there. So how do you make your team better? And I'm not for shipping anybody out.
And look, we'll talk about it a little bit, but they are interviewing a ton of defensive tackles at the combine right now. That might mean absolutely nothing. That might mean absolutely nothing, but it might mean that they are looking for a contingency plan in case they can't figure out how to shift the money around with one of these defensive tackles. Maybe they end up trading one of these guys for assets and turn that into 2 players, a draft pick and the money that you would have had to spend to pay that player. I certainly think that they need to get creative. You're right, Coach. It's not just as simple as, hey, let's go into the draft and use these 2 picks and let's get our free agent. Like they have to use every single part of the Buffalo of talent acquisition in order to get where they need to go on defense.
And who would you even go like right now? If you had to sign one guy, would it be? If I'm talking about free agent, where you had to go spend some money on the defensive side, would it be Lloyd? Would it be Woolen?
Let's talk about that next segment.
Yeah.
I think that's a great topic.
The hell with the next segment.
We got a lot of reads today. Hold on. Thank you, Coach. All right, we got to talk to you about FanDuel and what they have going on, because it's that time of the year. And as my computer refreshes here with FanDuel, I had this open a second ago, and there it is. All right, if you ever want to experience the NBA Finals live and in person, FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into a reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. You use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for 2. That's right. Flights, tickets, the whole package. Now, if you are already looking at the board and you're thinking about which team can make a deep run, this is the perfect time to lock it in. No pun intended. And right now, not only can you can pick cash, but it could also send you to the NBA Finals. So here's what you do. You visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, we are back. Cowboys Squad Show. Landon's back with us. We got the coach, Glenn Stretch Smith, and Iisha, 2 I's with Iisha Morrison, multiple shows Morrison. All right, so we're kind of turning into free agency. The Cowboys, according to reports, appear to be ready to make a run at Eagles free agent linebacker Nakobe Dean, because he knows Christian Parker's system. We saw that movie last season with Matt Eberflus. But that's one possibility. We talked about Devin Bush. Another report has the Cowboys targeting safety Minkah Fitzpatrick to be kind of a captain of the secondary. There were reports that they tried to acquire him in November of last season, but weren't able to get a deal done. Those are some of the names, but lots of different rumors out there almost every day. Anybody on your radar? We'll start with you, Landon. Anybody you're looking at as far as a perfect fit?
I think first things first, the Minkah stuff, that would have to be a trade because I think he is still under contract currently.
Right.
But it was something that the Cowboys were sniffing around on, so I think that's interesting. I tend to think that, like, look, as I'm literally watching Sonny Styles run a 4.47 in the 40 after doing a 43.5-inch vertical, I kind of feel like the chances of the Cowboys getting him have just about evaporated at this point. And I kind of feel like if you're going to draft players in the first round, defensive players, there's obviously a huge benefit to getting the guys that play the positions that are the most expensive, right? Because you can control those contracts. It's the same reason you want to draft defensive ends and cornerbacks high, is because you want to have that nice contract control for the 4 and then hopefully 5 years that you've got them under the rookie deal. So to me, I think it is an interesting proposition to go the route of getting a linebacker in free agency because, like I said, Sonny Styles probably isn't falling to you at 12, and unless you're making a commitment to move up in some way, you're probably thinking about targeting a linebacker not even until your 20th pick. So I would probably go the other route and just try to find the best edge and cornerback that you can get at 12 and 20. I think there's going to be a bunch of both, honestly. I would probably target you're probably going to end up taking a cornerback at 12 because of the talent that will be available there versus 20 and just the way that the boards are stacked. I think, there's like a teardrop in the edge class. And I think, after you get past, Bain and Bailey, there's that the rest of that group is probably, later in the first round. So I would, target one of these corners. It looks like Jerron McCoy, who is the Tennessee cornerback, didn't work out, which is, that's scary. I think interesting. One way to say it, I would say,
I don't know if it's scary, but it's.
He got hurt in January of 2025, right? Or it's like working out. Like he should have been on the field last year for Tennessee, and he wasn't. He should have been in the Senior Bowl, and he wasn't. He should have been working in this combine, and he isn't. I'm not spending a first round pick on that. I don't think that's too much risk in my opinion. There's something.
No, he might be. I think it sounds like, and again, I'm just reading the tea leaves here. It sounds like it might be more of a mental thing. I think we saw that kind of with Michael Gallup at one point in time where he was just like, he was cleared. And that's what they said about McCoy. He's cleared.
And Gallup never came back. Right?
Yeah. So we'll see what he does. I mean, and a lot of these kids too, they're opting to do their pro day instead of doing the combine because it's more of a environment that they can control and things like that. So we've seen an uptick of that, guys not running their 40 and all that stuff. But as far as the linebacker conversation, I've always thought it needs to be done in free agency. I never thought it should be done in the draft. One being because you've been trying to do that. And I just think that this team for this defense, as coach talks about investing in this defense, you need to invest in a mic.
Yeah.
It's been a revolving door there for quite some time. And mind you, we got the report today from Brian Schottenheimer that Maris Leofow, who they drafted to be the Mike, is moving out to outside linebacker. So
they're just trying to figure out what to do with that.
They're just trying to figure out what to do with him. And I get that. But what I'm saying is that this team, again, has been bringing in 1-year veterans for multiple years, albeit you're doing different schemes. You need, like Coach was talking about, you have that interior defensive line. You have a couple of defensive ends. You need that second level. You need a general. And all of the guys that are in this linebacker core are young. And then you think that a rookie's going to come in here and be able to do it? I mean, I think it's too pivotal of a spot on your defense to not have a guy that is a constant. and they have not had a constant in a while. So whomever it is, I hope they're here for a couple years and they not just out the door the next year. And these rookies, these kids are like trying to learn a position that's so intricate, and they don't have anybody that is, constantly there kind of teaching them that game. We need a mic. I thought it was going to be done in free agency anyway. DeMario Davis is a guy that I like as well.
Would that put Dean, do you think, though, at kind of as the front runner because he knows Parker's system and could...
I know the Dean thing is real. I know that it is real. I understand from my understanding that there's true interest there. The only thing about Nakobe Dean, we already know how great of a good player he is just always health. And again, that still worries me because these young linebackers and a Shamar James and a DeMarion Overshown, who's technically going into his sophomore year of football. That's kind of how it is, or junior year, whatever. He's still very young. Maris Leafau, it's so many young guys. They need somebody to lean on and learn from. They can't keep relying on each other. They don't know nothing about nothing. I mean, they do know something, but you know what I'm saying? It's always, I don't know. Murray and those guys I thought were going to change things, and it didn't seem like those young guys were getting the communication and the teaching they needed because they didn't understand it either. So I always thought the Mike needed to be a veteran, and that's where I'm standing. So I'm not surprised.
We need good players. That's my whole thing, is that I think the difference between last year and the year before that is that Kenneth Murray is a terrible player and was a terrible player when they signed him. I don't know why, or when they traded for him. So go get a good player. And that's the thing. If you're going to spend big money on a free agent, you're probably going to get better bang for your buck at linebacker than you are at edge or corner, where you're paying, all pro prices for rotational defensive end play. I just think you're going to get better bang for your buck at linebacker.
You don't think you could get Hendrickson for what you consider a value?
Yeah. No, you don't think so?
I mean, he spent all that time fighting to get a good contract, and it depends on what you're talking about. If you're comfortable with paying somebody
2 years, 30.
30 million total, or 30 million each year? No,
2 years, 30.
I don't think you could get him for that much. I wouldn't be opposed to it, but I don't think you can get him for that much.
I'm not for overspending in a situation like they did with Murray. That's what you can't do. You can't shoehorn yourself into saying we got to have this position, and then you get caught where you're overspending at that position. So I'm just saying. I mean, I would look at, and I'm not disagreeing with what you say. I mean, it'd be nice to have a veteran in there, but I mean, if Dean is, to me, he's been hurt. I get it. He knows the system and great, but I mean, I would be more inclined to go to Lloyd.
That's my choice.
See if that makes sense.
It does. That's who I would choose, honestly, is Devin Lloyd. I think he's the top of the market guy. Go and spend the money on him. I think he's probably, look, Hendrickson right now, AAV estimation at Spotrac is like $25 million per year at this point. I think you could get Lloyd for like under 20, like around $20 million. And I think that you're getting a younger player who is on the rise. If we're talking about like what we were talking about before, Coach, like he's got arrow going up, right? And I think he could be the kind of centerpiece of the free agency of what you're on the defense, of what you're trying to rebuild, and the rest of the pieces you can kind of fill in with some other mid-round rotational pieces at defensive end and corner, and then really go get the guys you like in the draft.
Yeah, I think at Hendrickson's age, I think you're overvaluing that a little bit from that number, but that's my own personal opinion. I don't know that he gets that at, what is he, 32?
And then with his injury history too, I think that number will come down. But that is where that's where people are valuing him right now. So, Landon, you said something earlier about Dallas meeting with these defensive tackles. And like there is a trend with the defensive tackles. I was surprised at how many defensive tackles they met with, but there's a trend in a sense that all of those guys are guys that I believe that I've seen can play, they can play like right over the center or shade the center. Like those guys are get up field, have some explosiveness type things. But then, obviously there are guys that also can take on some of the double teams and stuff. But like, I was going to ask you guys, and you as well, coach, with them looking at the defensive tackles as much as they did and that they are interested, and it sounds like it's interested from what I'm hearing, with the scheme change, could you get a defensive tackle that's not a defensive tackle, but is more of that 4-eye guy or 5-eye guy, and that supplement you not having maybe getting an edge high in this draft? Does that make sense?
You need both. I mean,
I know you need both, but I'm saying, like, what if there is a defensive tackle there that they think can be versatile and move across the line? Do you think that they're going to value that more over an edge that's there because of the scheme? Because I was surprised that they were interviewing all these defensive tackles. I didn't.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. I mean, they interviewed 14. They got 45 total, and then they've got Dallas days where they're able to bring guys in there.
And the visits and their third visits.
Yeah, you got multiple positions though where you're not talking to anybody.
That's right.
You're not talking to anybody in certain.
Yeah, they haven't talked to any running backs, I don't think.
But what I think Coach is saying is that you're only having to cover a certain amount of positions. So
correct. So what my point is, you could need as many as where you've been playing with, say, 4 inside guys rotationally. You might, that number may become 6, right?
I think it is.
Okay.
If you're playing this scheme, so now all of a sudden you've got to bolster that position. So I don't know what happens with Solomon Thomas, Toye. I don't know, Perion Winfrey. I don't know how he fits into the long range plans of the Cowboys, but
I think those two make sense. But Toye is really like,
I don't think he's a fit, but I think the other two,
unless they're going to specially use him somewhere, I imagine that he may be a casualty of this whole situation.
All right.
And not that he, can't develop into a decent player. It's just, I don't think that he's going to fit what they want to do. He's not, I don't think
they're not two gapping.
They're not doing that anymore. So you don't need a guy to,
Yeah.
Well, that sucks. Another pick down the drain.
Well, speaking of picks, a former Cowboys pick just found out he is unemployed. We'll tell you who that is when we come back. This is the Cowboys Squad Show. I want to talk to you, though, about Indeed and all the things that they have going on there right now, because, as you know, workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill is still sitting open. Well, when the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs, and that would be Indeed sponsored jobs. They help you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for: skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that I think really says it all. In the time that I've been talking about it, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed. That according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching, more time interviewing candidates who check all of your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. Spend less time looking around, and when you need the right person to cut through the chaos, you need Indeed sponsored jobs. And how about this? Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help you get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. So just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now. Support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. And again, Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. All right, welcome back. Cowboy Squad Show. A little breaking news from Indy. Commanders center, former Cowboys pick Tyler Biadasz has just been released by Washington. So talking about linemen and what's going to happen with TJ Bass or maybe Hoffman. Well, there's another one in the mix that will be able to sign with somebody else. I like Tyler, though. He's a good dude. Talk to him.
Surprised me. I was a little shocked by it, especially since, he He had a pretty good year with Washington the year before. He definitely had, he's battled through some injuries, but he's played some good football. So I was surprised, probably just a cap casualty, or they see some centers in this draft that they think that they can have cheaper. So we'll see where he goes.
I mean, he's in those chunky soup commercials. I can't believe
that's right.
They're gonna have to use AI to re-edit all those commercials. Whoever the new center is.
Yeah, this is a good dude.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. Tyler's a good guy. So I hope he lands, and he will. He'll land somewhere because I bet someone will pick him up, and he'll be probably a starter.
Yeah, absolutely, 100% for sure. So today you mentioned Brian Schottenheimer. He did say that they officially announced they are moving Maris Leafau to the edge. Also spoke about George Pickens and said they want to use Pickens in motion more this season. And then when he was asked about the contract and everything else, he said, "I hope so. Hope that we will get a deal done." So, and we're not gonna get into the whole contract thing again, but I think you would agree it's like an avalanche. It just keeps getting bigger, and the narrative continues to be that his agent is going to want him to be paid like a top receiver, and hopefully they'll be able to find a way to make that happen. They can agree to a deal. We'll see.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say nothing else about paying nobody on offense because coach not gonna get me.
No, I'm for all of that. It's just at some point I gotta get this football team has got to get better players on the other side of the football. Yeah. I don't necessarily think that if you sit here and think that they can do it in one draft, I think you're asking a lot when you don't have a second and third round pick.
So you got to figure out how to get a second or third round pick.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Let's start talking about trading off that 20th pick and seeing if you can get somebody that gets shot in the ass with the quarterback late and wants to get back up in the first round. I'd be fine with that. I mean, I haven't looked at it close enough to know, and we keep saying this. I mean, how many true first round picks are there? And then certainly you don't want to get yourself in a position where you draft for need at 20. You want to draft whoever the best guy is. And if you don't think that fits your football team at that time, you got to look at moving out.
What you touched on it briefly, but what do you think of Leafau on the edge? I mean, I like the guy's motor. I like he to me plays intense, and like to see him find a way to succeed.
I just think people are. I think people are because she knows how I'm going to answer this question. I think people are too excited about this. I think this is a case where they have a contract with Leafau, and it's a good contract. It's cheap. They can't fill all the holes. They need some people to play, on this cheap contract. They're trying to find a way to keep him on the roster and see if he can help them out in this area. But if anything, I mean, I don't think this is a ringing endorsement of Leafau. Like a ringing endorsement of Leafau would be, we expect him to compete for the starting Mike position, the one that he was drafted for. I think they're trying to make it work, which is great. And I mean, that's fine. We see this kind of thing happen, but usually when we see this kind of thing happen with a guy that isn't a starter necessarily, he isn't a starter, it's usually because, hey, this guy's going to be on the roster next year. How can we make the most of it?
In fairness, though, it has been Lupa Linda, hot potato.
No doubt.
At the linebacker position, that's what I'm saying. It's like, I mean, coaches talked about it. Like, I really want to see how these guys do under this coaching, because there were gentlemen that we've seen play with better technique, that have played better football, that just look so out of sorts. I want to see how he is with this scheme. And at that point, I mean, we can make our decisions, but I would venture to say it would be hard to learn how to be a Mike when you are getting a new philosophy every year. And some guys playing out of position due to injury.
That's the thing is you got the fourth different guy in 4 years. Is that right? I mean, and Zimmer liked him and this guy didn't like him. And I mean, ultimately, I don't know what kind of football intelligence he has. I have no idea. I would say that when you think about switching to what a different scheme, kind of pretty good football IQ. And I'm not saying that he doesn't. Maybe they're going to try to take some of that off of his plate and put him out there and say, hey, either we're gonna make you a curl flat drop guy, or go sack the quarterback. That's two things. That's all there is to it. So if you can unload some of that when some guys are overthinking and not just reacting and playing, maybe they think that'll help him some. I don't know, and I could be certainly speaking out of turn here, but I mean, in certain defenses, I mean, you got to have a strong football IQ, and if you think the Kentucky Derby's a hat, maybe that's not the right defense for you.
I'll find out, but it's interesting because Landon knows, like, that's when Maris Leaffowl was coming out on this draft. That was something that they talked about how he did on the board. They talked about how he did it to Senior Bowl. Like, his IQ was not in question. I think that it has been a transition for him. I think it's been a little difficult for him. He's always been a player that needed to find some control in his game, and I do think that has played a role in his inability to kind of transition into the NFL, but also to all of the different coaches and stuff like that. Because the players don't have stuff. Yeah.
Maybe this helps him hit the reset button, right? Maybe moving him helps him get to a reset situation.
You could use his intensity. You could use his physicality. You could use, obviously, you could use how commanding he can be on the field. It's just, how do you get it under control? And Coach, you've taught us that plenty of times, is that if guys aren't getting stuff, then you simplify it for them. You give them one or two things to do and let them do it well. So we'll see how he does. This is a pivotal year for him. Like you guys are saying, it's a huge year for him. We'll see what happens.
So one final question about the tackles, the interviews with all the defensive tackles. I mean, does that mean something? I know you kind of hit on it. I'm not trying to repeat your question, Iisha, but I mean, we've talked about the secondary issues today, about the linebacker issues, but the fact that they were going so hard on defensive tackles, does that say anything to you guys?
I think it's not nothing. But I also want to caution against over-analyzing this, right? Like, I do think that there is you could easily say, hey, this is just the best opportunity for us to get in front of these 14 guys, right?
Okay.
Like, we plan on interviewing with these guys no matter what. It's just that this is the best opportunity. And for the positions like defensive end or corner or linebacker that are real needs, they're using their visits. So I don't want to say it's not. I don't want to say it's nothing, but because it is something. I mean, it's enough for us, I think, to comment on it. But I also wouldn't go over reading this into saying, they're definitely, it's defensive tackle. Look at the numbers. Like, they probably would have talked to all these defensive guys just to kind of keep their options open, because again, they don't really know what they're doing with Kenny Clark's contract situation. And I have to think that unloading one of these defensive tackles is probably on the table in some back room somewhere. They've been talking like Kenny Clark is going to be back. So I imagine that's their plan A. But if plan B becomes a reality and you end up maybe getting an extra draft pick, suddenly defensive tackle may become even a bigger a need. And now you're swimming in that water, and you don't want to be unprepared. You don't want to have a list of guys who you've never spoken to before suddenly being in range of where you're picking.
And I don't know from a squared stance guy. I mean, is Osa a true square stance guy? Because I mean, these guys are going to be square stance guys down inside on regular down and distance situations. So I mean, I don't know what they're thinking, other than the fact that I believe, and I'm like you, Landon, I'm not going to read too much into it, because I don't believe. I mean, I can't see him talking to any receivers. I can't see him talking to, you know what I mean? So yeah. I think certain positions get eliminated here, and then we start making a bigger deal out of this than what it really is.
Can I ask a question, though? I know that we don't think that they're going to be talking to receivers. But so you just think that receiver doesn't need to be looked at, addressed in any capacity? Because you probably will lose a Jalen Tolbert. I don't see Dallas re-signing him. Brian Flournoy did come along later in the season. He did have a good season, obviously, but I mean,
I think you don't need to spend visits on guys.
Oh, of course not. I'm asking in general. I'm asking even like free agency and stuff like that. I'm
not saying they're not going to draft one or get in that situation, but I also think that you got Dallas days still ahead of you here, and strategically, might they get those guys, that certain group of guys, when they come in for Dallas days? I don't know. I'm just putting two and two together and trying to read the tea leaves as to what's going on, because it's not a top priority for them.
I wouldn't be shocked if they brought in like a free agent, like wide receiver or special teams wide receiver 5 guy, like on a very vet minimum cheap deal. That wouldn't shock me at all.
Okay.
All right. Final timeout. When we come back, Will McClay spoke with the media today. I want to tell you about that as well. I think he had some interesting observations. And Coach, if we have time, I have a bonus question for you that I want to get in. We'll do that when we come back. This is the Cowboys Squad Show. I want to talk to you about Home Chef, right? Because, as you know, everybody's busy right now. You got the new year going on. A lot of people really trying to simplify their routines. Landon and I were talking how busy he is. And, dinner's a big one, right? You got busy work days. If you're Marcus, you got cold winter nights, packed schedule. So having an easy, reliable dinner plan can really make a huge difference. And that's where Home Chef comes in. Home Chef takes the stress out of cooking by delivering fresh, pre-portioned ingredients right to your door with easy-to-follow recipes that actually taste great. They're rated #1 by the users of other meal kits for quality, convenience, value, taste, and recipe ease. And it's easy to see why. The meals come ready. They fit your schedule. 30-minute recipes, oven-ready trays, or even quick lunches. And of the 30 weekly options, they have family-sized meals and even different dietary choices. Recipes are simple, but they feel elevated, even restaurant quality, with dishes co-created by chefs like Gordon Ramsay. So everything arrives pre-portioned. There's less prep, less mess, and no wasted food. It really saves time and money. Home Chef customers save an average of $86 per month on groceries. That adds up quick. So for a limited time, Home Chef is offering our listeners 50% off your first box, free shipping, and free dessert for life. Just go to homechef.com/lockedon. That's homechef.com/lockedon for 50% off your first box with free shipping and free dessert for life. Must be an active subscriber to receive the free dessert. Sweet. Welcome back to the Cowboys Squad Show. Landon McCool, Iisha Morrison, Glenn Stretch Smith, former Cowboys coach. All right, so Will McClay met with the media today, had a couple of things that he said. One, he said he's working very closely with new defensive coordinator Christian Parker, and said he's even learning some things at this point in his career, which is really cool. But good to see, the good vibes and the intensity and the focus, and hopefully that will translate into, a fruitful offseason, especially on the defensive side of the ball, like we've been talking about today. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think I'm sorry, I got very distracted by Arvell Reese running a 40, I have to admit.
These linebackers are moving. You hear me?
I mean, Arvell Reese just ran a 4.46, which is wild because he's over 245 pounds. I think if you aren't, I want to comment real quick about the Will McClay learning new tricks aspect, because I do feel like that's something that I was hoping that the Joneses were kind of doing a little bit of this offseason, is kind of learning new tricks and evolving a little bit, because I think it's important that if you don't, and this goes to everything, like everything is kind of in a constant state of change. And if you're not honing that and trying to get better, then you're getting worse. And I think that goes with the front office structure of the Cowboys. That goes with the offense overall. I think that's my other point about I've brought up about the offense is that if the offensive line isn't getting better, if the Cowboys aren't finding ways to improve without adding, while I guess adding a little bit more money to how expensive they are, they can't just remain completely stagnant and be good enough. The defense is obviously going through a ton of changes, and I don't think we need to worry about that. But my point being that it's good that guys like Will McClay can still evolve. It's good that they can be inspired by, people like Christian Parker, who come in with different kind of mindset about different things, and maybe the two sides can learn from each other a little bit. I think people that are too stubborn and set in their ways about things like this, it becomes really easy to not be able to keep up with the changes happening in the NFL. So I think not only is it a good thing for Will McClay to kind of continue to grow and evolve, but it's absolutely necessary to kind of keep up with the pace of what's happening in the NFL.
Yeah, and you want the scouting department and the coaches to be on the same page. The last thing you want is to be drafting somebody that the coaches don't, feel like that fits into their scheme or whatever that scenario is. So anytime you get a chance to, to get those guys together and, hey, chat about what one likes or what the other likes, I think that's only a positive.
Yeah, a few things that stood out to me about what Will McClay said. Jeff, you mentioned that he said that he was learning new things. Obviously, Landon, you just commented on it, and he mentioned that he's learning from the staff. How players' brains work, and and that's interesting to me because I feel like a lot of that has to do with how flexible they want to be on the defensive side. It sounds like they are valuing intellect and processing and just like guys' natural instincts and what they do, how they take in the information, because this defense seems like it's going to have wrinkles. Yes, they're going to do the too high shell and stuff, but they're also going to try to trip guys up. There's going to be a lot of moving parts. They need smart players. Will McClay was saying that that's something that, and he even used the example of Jordan Lewis. The guys asked him, like, who's a player that you've had that you think about that you can see how their brain works and that you can see that on the football field and it helps your team. And he said Jordan Lewis. So for me, it's kind of weird for me. I'm not going to hold you because I kind of would think that as a scout, as someone like that, then that would be important to you anyway. But it seems like there's more of an emphasis on it because of how detailed this defense is going to be and how big of a change it's going to be. The second thing that I pointed out, like that he talked about, was the flexibility of the defensive ends. They're going to ask these defensive ends to do a lot. And I think that puts emphasis to your point, Landon, kind of talking about them filling out the rest of this defense on who is opposite of Donovan Izaraku. And why maybe a Clowney, as we talk about him maybe as a guy coming back, maybe they feel like he's not a fit with everything that they're going to be asking these ends to do. I think we're going to see the defensive ends. Like, I can't wait to see what changes there are. And then also too, the new coaches. Coach, that made me think about you. They asked him about the new coaches and if he was worried about the age, and he said no, because they know football. And he said that with a lot of certainty, that these guys understand football. They understand how to teach it, and that he's confident despite their age that they can, teach these guys and that they can be a unit. So those are a few things that stood out to me about everything he said. Will McClay doesn't show a lot of emotion, but you can tell that he is a little more enthusiastic, a little bit more excited about what's to come on the defensive side of the ball from the energy I've gotten from him.
That's good. That's big season coming up. That's good. That's good to hear. Good to see, and good. Always like it when he holds court, and that's one thing I really like about the combine is you get to have these interviews and that access and the opportunity to talk a little bit more than you do. It's a little bit different setting than compared to once the season gets going or even training camp. All right. Before we get out, Landon, what do you, Marcus? You guys have been doing double duty like every day. What do you got coming up tomorrow and then kicking off next week?
Yeah, I mean, covering this combine, I'm sure we're going to talk about Sonny Styles a whole bunch, and just kind of how does it change the angles, not only for the positions that the Cowboys are interested in, but in the positions that the Cowboys aren't interested in, and how they may move around, and how does that change your ability to get certain players? So obviously, tons of angles, tons of more information to talk about now that the combine's out. So we'll be covering it all.
Awesome. Look forward to that. Great work by the two of you. Iisha, anything with you tomorrow or Monday?
Tomorrow the stack will be dropping with Brian Broaddus and Zach Wolchuk at I don't know, it'll drop sometime in the morning. They've been doing some weird stuff, but Brian Broaddus is boots on ground pushing us information. He talked about some things that he noticed today while he was there. So we talked about the 30 visits, well, not the 30 visits, the interviews and the formal informal interviews. So come see us. Go by and see me.
All right. Look forward to that. And Coach, I will save my question for you for next time. Give us something to look forward to. It's a good question, though. I think you're going to like it. I think you'll appreciate it. So
he looks excited.
Yeah, you can tell. Sorry to bother you.
Stop bothering me.
Yes.
All right. All right, everybody. Hey, thanks for joining us tonight. Thank you to everybody listening later. Enjoy the combine this weekend. Next time we return, we will be in the month of March. The season's going to be here before we know it. Love it. Thank you to everybody. This has been the Cowboys Squad Show.